If you're over 60, there's one exercise that can dramatically improve your strength, balance, metabolism, bone density, and even how long you live. And no, it's not walking, it's not stretching, it's not even yoga, it's the sit-to-stand squat. Now, before you click away because squats sound too intense, hear me out. This isn't about heavy barbells or deep gym squats. This is about one of the most scientifically powerful movements your body was designed to do, and why mastering it after 60 could literally determine how independently you live in the next 10 to 20 years. Let's break it down. First, why does this exercise matter so much after 60? As we age, we naturally lose muscle mass, a process called sarcopenia. Research shows that after age 50, adults lose about 1–2% of muscle mass per year. Strength declines even faster, up to 3% per year. But here's the real problem. Loss of leg strength is one of the strongest predictors of systemic falls, loss of independence. Falls, loss of hospitalization, and even mortality. In fact, multiple long-term studies show that lower body strength is directly linked to longevity. And what movement do you perform dozens of times per day that relies heavily on lower body strength? Standing up from a chair, the sit-to-stand squat mimics one of the most essential daily functions, getting up safely and confidently. If that movement becomes difficult, everything else starts to decline. Now let's talk about what makes this exercise so powerful. 1. It builds muscle where it matters most. The sit-to-stand targets: quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings, core stabilizers. These are the exact muscles responsible for walking, climbing stairs, balance, and protecting your knees and hips. Resistance training studies consistently show that even adults in their 70s and 80s can significantly increase muscle mass and strength with proper training. One landmark study found that people in their 80s improved leg strength by nearly 174% after structured resistance training. Age is not the limitation, inactivity is. 2. It improves bone density. After 60, bone density naturally decreases, especially in women. Weight-bearing movements like squats stimulate bone remodeling. The mechanical load signals your bones to maintain density and strength. This is critical for preventing osteoporosis and fractures. And unlike high-impact exercises, chair squats provide bone stimulation with low injury risk. 3. It enhances balance and reduces fall risk. Falls are one of the leading causes of injury after 60. The sit-to-stand improves neuromuscular coordination, proprioception, your body's awareness in space, core engagement, hip stability, all of which directly reduce fall risk. Clinical research shows structured lower body strength training significantly reduces falls in older adults. This one movement trains balance in a practical, functional way. 4. It boosts metabolism and blood sugar control. Muscle tissue is metabolically active. The more muscle you preserve, the better your body handles blood sugar. Resistance training improves insulin sensitivity, meaning your body becomes more efficient at managing glucose. For adults at risk of type 2 diabetes, this is huge. Even moderate resistance training 2 to 3 times per week has been shown to improve blood sugar control in older populations. 5. It supports heart health. You may think of squats as just a strength exercise, but when done in repetitions, they also elevate heart rate. This improves circulation, cardiovascular conditioning, vascular elasticity. Studies show that combining resistance and moderate intensity movement improves blood pressure and overall cardiovascular markers in adults over 60. Now let's talk about how to actually do it safely. Step 1. Set up properly. Use a stable chair that doesn't move. Sit tall, chest up, shoulders relaxed, feet shoulder width apart, knees aligned over toes. Step 2. The movement. Lean slightly forward from the hips. Press through your heels. Stand up fully. Squeeze your glutes at the top. Slowly sit back down with control. Control is key. You don't want to plop down. You want slow, controlled lowering. How many should you do? Start with 2–3 sets, 8 to 12 repetitions, 2–3 times per week. If that feels easy, progress by lowering the chair height, crossing arms over chest, holding light dumbbells, slowing down the lowering phase. Progression is what stimulates improvement. Now here's the most important part: consistency. Research shows that muscle loss accelerates rapidly during inactivity. Even just 2 weeks of reduced movement can significantly reduce strength in older adults. But the good news? Muscle responds quickly when you train it. Even small improvements in leg strength dramatically improve quality of life. Let's address safety. If you have severe knee pain, hip replacement, balance disorders, cardiovascular conditions, always consult your physician first. But for most healthy adults over 60, This movement is not only safe, it's essential. And here's something powerful. There's actually a sit-to-stand test used in medical settings. It measures how many times someone can stand up and sit down in 30 seconds. The number strongly correlates with overall functional health and even mortality risk. In other words, your ability to stand up from a chair predicts how well you'll age. That's how important this movement is. Every year, after the age of 50, something quiet begins to happen inside your body. You don't see it. You don't feel it at first, but it's happening. You lose up to 1 to 2% of your muscle mass every single year, and your strength declines even faster, sometimes up to 3% annually. By the time you reach your 60s, that loss is no longer invisible. It shows up when you hesitate before climbing stairs. It shows up when getting out of a low chair feels harder than it used to. And it shows up in one critical movement that scientists now say can predict how well and how long you live, standing up from a chair. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but research says otherwise. In clinical settings around the world, doctors use something called the 30-second sit-to-stand test. It measures how many times you can stand up and sit down in half a minute, and the results are more powerful than most people realize. Studies have found that lower scores on this test are strongly associated with higher risk of falls, hospitalization, loss of independence, and even premature death. In other words, your ability to rise from a chair isn't just about strength, it's about survival. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death among older adults. 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls each year, and once someone falls, the consequences can be devastating. Hip fractures carry a mortality rate of up to 30% within the first year. 30%. That's nearly 1 in 3. And what is one of the biggest predictors of fall risk? Weak lower body strength. When leg strength declines, balance declines. When balance declines, confidence declines. And when confidence declines, movement declines. It becomes a vicious cycle. You move less because you feel weaker. You become weaker because you move less. And slowly, independence begins to slip away. Not in dramatic fashion, but in small surrendered moments. Asking for help with groceries, avoiding stairs, holding onto walls for stability. But here's the part that changes everything. Lower body strength is one of the most trainable qualities in the human body. Even after 60, even after 70, even after 80. Landmark resistance training studies have shown that adults in their 80s can increase muscle strength dramatically in just weeks. In one famous study, nursing home residents with an average age of 87 improved their leg strength by nearly 174% after just 8 weeks of progressive resistance training. That's not maintenance, that's transformation. And it all centers around one fundamental pattern: standing up. When you rise from a chair, your quadriceps fire to extend the knee, your glutes activate to drive the hips forward, your core stabilizes your spine, your nervous system coordinates the entire movement in fractions of a second. It's a full-body symphony of strength and control. Lose that coordination and daily life becomes fragile. Preserve it and daily life remains yours. Researchers have consistently found that muscle strength is a stronger predictor of mortality than muscle mass alone. It's not just about how much muscle you carry, it's about how effectively you can use it. Grip strength studies, gait speed studies, and sit-to-stand performance tests all show the same pattern. Stronger individuals live longer and experience fewer chronic complications. And there's another layer. As muscle weakens, metabolic health declines. Skeletal muscle plays a major role in glucose disposal. When muscle mass and strength decrease, insulin sensitivity worsens. Blood sugar control becomes more difficult. The risk of type 2 diabetes rises. Cardiovascular disease risk increases. What begins as just weaker legs quietly becomes a systemic health issue. But when you train lower body strength, you're not just protecting your knees, you're protecting your heart, you're protecting your metabolism, you're protecting your brain. Research shows that resistance training improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammatory markers, lowers blood pressure, and enhances cognitive function. In fact, studies have demonstrated improved executive function and memory in older adults who engage in structured strength training programs. Think about that. A movement as simple as standing up and sitting down can stimulate your muscles, challenge your balance, elevate your heart rate, activate your nervous system, and sharpen your mind. It is one of the highest return investments you can make in your body after 60, and yet inactivity accelerates decline at an alarming pace. Studies on bed rest and reduced step counts show that older adults can lose significant muscle strength in as little as 2 weeks of inactivity. 2 weeks. That's how fast the body adapts to not being challenged. But the reverse is also true. When challenged consistently and progressively, the body adapts towards strength. The tragedy is not aging. Aging is inevitable. The tragedy is preventable weakness. Lower body strength determines whether you can travel without fear, whether you can play with grandchildren without hesitation, whether you can recover if you stumble, whether you can remain in your own home instead of relying on assisted care. In long-term observational studies, individuals who maintain higher levels of muscular strength have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, lower rates of certain cancers, and lower all-cause mortality. Strength is not vanity, it is insurance. And here's the emotional truth. Independence is rarely lost in one dramatic event. It erodes quietly. First, it's avoiding the lower shelf, then it's asking for help carrying laundry, then it's rearranging life around what feels difficult. Each compromise feels small, but together, they redraw the boundaries of your world. The ability to stand up confidently, repeatedly, and without assistance is a declaration. It says your legs are strong, your balance is intact, your nervous system is responsive, your bones are bearing load, your body is still adaptable. After 60, this movement becomes more than exercise. It becomes a health marker, a daily test, a measurable reminder that your body is capable of resisting decline. Science is clear. Muscle strength is one of the most powerful predictors of longevity we have. It influences fall risk, metabolic health, cardiovascular function, cognitive performance, and overall independence. And among all strength patterns, lower body power stands out as the most critical. You don't need extreme workouts, you don't need complicated routines, you need consistency, progressive challenge, intentional movement, because every time you stand up strong, you're not just rising from a chair, you're pushing back against sarcopenia, you're reinforcing neural pathways, you're stimulating bone density, you're protecting your future self, and that future version of you, the one 10, 15, 20 years from now, will either thank you for the strength you built today or struggle because of the strength you didn't. Lower body strength determines how well you age. The research proves it, the statistics confirm it, the biology explains it, and your daily life reflects it. The question is not whether aging will happen. The question is whether you will age strong enough to rise. Most people believe aging is a slow, unavoidable slide downward, that once strength is lost, it's gone forever, that after 60, the body can only be preserved, not rebuilt. But science tells a very different story. In fact, research now shows that a single, simple exercise, when done consistently, can reverse many of the physical declines once thought to be permanent. And what makes this discovery so powerful is that it doesn't require a gym, expensive equipment, or hours of training. It requires something far more important: repetition, intention, and patience. The human body is built to adapt. It always has been. Muscle tissue doesn't age the way people think it does. It responds to demand. When demand disappears, muscle shrinks. When demand returns, muscle grows, even decades later in life. Multiple studies confirm that adults in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s can regain lost strength when exposed to progressive resistance. The myth that aging muscles are too old to change has been completely dismantled by modern research. One of the most striking findings in aging science is how quickly strength can return. In controlled trials, older adults who performed basic lower body resistance exercises just 2 to 3 times per week showed measurable improvements in strength within weeks. Not months, weeks. That speed matters, because strength is not just about appearance or performance, it's about function, it's about survival. As muscle strengthens, balance improves. As balance improves, fall risk drops. As fall risk drops, hospitalization rates decline. And as hospitalizations decline, independence increases. This is not theory. This is documented in population-level studies tracking thousands of older adults over years. Small, consistent movements compound into life-altering outcomes. The sit-to-stand movement is one of the most researched functional exercises in aging populations because it replicates real life. It trains the body exactly how it needs to perform daily tasks. When you stand up repeatedly under control, you are loading the muscles, challenging the nervous system, and stimulating bone tissue, all at the same time. Few exercises deliver that level of efficiency. Bone health alone makes this movement critical. After age 60, bone density loss accelerates, especially in the hips and spine. But bones are living tissue. They respond to mechanical stress. Weight-bearing movements signal bones to maintain and rebuild density. Studies on resistance training show increased bone mineral density or slowed bone loss in older adults who train consistently. Without that stimulus, bone loss continues unchecked, raising fracture risk dramatically. Then there's metabolism. Muscle is one of the body's largest glucose sinks. When muscle mass and strength decline, blood sugar regulation suffers. This is why age-related muscle loss is closely tied to rising rates of type 2 diabetes. But resistance training reverses this trend. Even without weight loss, improving muscle strength increases insulin sensitivity. Blood sugar control improves. HbA1c levels drop. For many older adults, strength training becomes a metabolic intervention, not just a physical one. Cardiovascular health follows a similar pattern. While walking improves endurance, resistance-based movements improve vascular function in a different way. They enhance blood vessel elasticity, reduce resting blood pressure, and improve circulation. Studies comparing aerobic exercise alone to combined aerobic and resistance training consistently show superior cardiovascular outcomes when strength training is included. The heart does not exist in isolation. It responds to the demands of the muscles it serves, and the brain is not left out of this adaptation. Research in neurobiology shows that resistance training increases the release of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein involved in neuroplasticity and cognitive function. Older adults who engage in strength training demonstrate improvements in memory, attention, and executive function. Movement strengthens the brain as much as it strengthens the body. What makes consistency so powerful is not intensity, it's frequency. The body adapts to what it experiences most often. A simple exercise performed regularly sends a clear message to your physiology. This tissue is needed, and the body responds by preserving and rebuilding it. Contrast this with inactivity. Studies on reduced movement show that older adults can lose up to 5% of muscle strength in just 10 days of inactivity. 10 days. That's how quickly decline accelerates when the signal disappears. But when movement returns, so does adaptation. The system is not broken, it is responsive. This is why one simple exercise can change everything, not because it is magical, but because it is repeatable, sustainable, safe, and aligned with how the body naturally adapts. You don't need complexity to reverse decline, you need consistency. Over time, the benefits stack. Stronger legs mean faster reaction times. Faster reaction times mean fewer falls mean fewer fractures mean fewer hospital stays. Fewer hospital stays mean a lower risk of rapid decline, which is common after prolonged bed rest in older adults. This cascade is well documented in geriatric medicine. Strength protects against the domino effect of aging. There's also a psychological shift that happens when strength returns. Confidence increases. Fear of movement decreases. People stop avoiding stairs, stop bracing themselves unnecessarily, stop shrinking their world to fit their weakness. This psychological component is critical because fear-driven inactivity accelerates physical decline. Movement restores trust in the body. Long-term studies show that older adults who engage in regular resistance training report higher quality of life, greater mobility, and improved mood. Depression rates decrease, sleep quality improves, pain perception often diminishes as joints become better supported by stronger muscles. Strength becomes a foundation for overall well-being. And perhaps the most overlooked benefit is resilience. Strength training doesn't just prepare you for good days, it prepares you for bad ones, illness, surgery, unexpected stress. Stronger individuals recover faster, they retain function better, they return to independence sooner. This is why muscle strength is now considered a clinical marker of health, not just fitness. A single exercise done consistently becomes a daily signal of survival. It tells your body to hold on to muscle, to protect bone, to sharpen coordination, to maintain balance, to regulate blood sugar, to support the heart, to nourish the brain. This is not about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming capacity. It's about refusing to accept unnecessary decline. Science has made one thing clear. Aging does not mean helplessness. Decline is not inevitable. Weakness is not destiny. When you repeat a simple movement day after day, week after week, your body listens. And slowly, quietly, it responds. Strength returns, confidence follows, independence expands. One exercise, one habit, one decision repeated over time. And in that repetition lies the power to change how you age.